Good day, I am Eden Macala, and I am assigned to present you my co-reporters, Kyle Kimural and Chisna May Moreno, and we are the Group 7 to present you our report, The First Cry of Revolution. Historical context. The Philippines Revolution of 1896 began with what later became known as the First Cry or the initial move of the Filipinos to begin with the revolution for independence. This they did by cheering up the citizens and proclaiming the start of the fight for independence. The event happened after the Katipunan was exposed on August 19, 1896, and the Spaniards began to crack down on suspected rebels. The Katipunan Supremo address proceeded to a designated meeting place outside the city to decide on their next move. The original plan was to start the revolutions at the end of August, but following the arrest of the Katipuneros, Bonifacio found it wise to begin the revolution that day and attack Manila at the end of the month. In the year 1911, the monument to the heroes of 1896 was erected in Balintawak, where beginning in 1908. It was believed that the first cry occurred there on August 26. However, the date and the place of the event were later contradicted by different Katipunan personalities who claimed that they were there at the time. In 1963, the National Historical Commission, or today's National Historical Commission of the Philippines, NHCP, decided that following extensive research of primary sources, the first cry of the Philippine Revolution of 1896 happened on August 23, 1896 at Pugad, Lawin, now part of Project 8 in Quezon City. Controversy, however, persists with the historians and other personalities, or especially the descendants of the Katipunero witnesses, claiming that the official date and place are wrong. Torres, 2018. Pio Valenzuela, born on July 11, 1869 at Polo, Bulacan, Valenzuela City, a Filipino physician and a major figure during the Philippine Revolution against Spanish colonizer. He was a medical student at the University of Santo Tomas when he joined the barely week-old Katipunan, a secret society founded by Andres Bonifacio on July 7, 1892 in Tondo, Manila. He secretly established Katipunan branches in many areas in Morong, now Rizal Province, and Bulacan. It was Dr. Valenzuela who was commissioned by Andres Bonifacio to talk to Dr. Jose Rizal, who was deported to the Dapitan in Zamboanga, about the founding of the Katipunan and its plan to rise against the Spanish authorities. In June 15, 1896, he left for Dapitan after he retired from politics. He wrote his memoirs on the revolutionary days, but historians have since been wary of his autobiography because of some inconsistencies in his version of events, particularly about his meeting with Dr. Jose Rizal in Dapitan in 1896. On April 6, 1956, he died at the age of 86. In 1963, the town of Polo was renamed Valenzuela in his honor. The municipality became a city in 1998. The account. The first place of refuge of Andres Bonifacio, Emilio Jacinto, Procopio Bonifacio, Teodoro Plata, Aguedo del Rosario, and myself were Balintawak, the first 5 arriving there on August 19 and on August 20, 1896. The first place where some 500 members of the Katipunan met on August 22, 1896 was the house and yard of Apolonio Samson at Kangkong. Aside from the persons mentioned above, among those who were there were Bricio Pantas, Alejandro Santiago, Ramon Bernardo, Apolonio Samson, and others. Here, views were only exchanged, and no resolution was debated or adopted. It was at Pugad Lawin, the house, storehouse, and yard of Juan Ramos, son of Melchora Aquino, where over 1,000 members of the Katipunan met and carried out considerable debate and discussion on August 23, 1896. The discussion was on whether or not the revolution against the Spanish government should be started on August 29, 1896. After that tumultuous meeting, many of those present tore their cedula certificates and shouted, "Long live the Philippines! Long live the Philippines!"
The Cry of Bahay Toro, August 24, 1896, by Santiago Alvarez. The Cry of Bahay Toro is another version of the cry which is launched the Philippine Revolution during the Spanish colonial time. Santiago Alvarez is the son of Mariano Alvarez and Nicolas Birata. He was a relative of Gregoria de Jesus, who happened to be the wife of Andres Bonifacio. He was a revolutionary general and a founder and an honorary president of the first directorate of the Nacionalista Party. He is also known as Kidlat ng Apoy because of his inflamed bravery and dedication as commander of Cavite's famous battles, particularly that in Dalahican. He was celebrated in present day in Cavite City as the hero of the Battle of Dalahican. He became Captain General and later Commander-in-Chief of Magdiwang forces and valiantly fought the Spaniards from 1896 to 1897. Alvarez studied law at the University of Santo Tomas and later transferred to the Colegio de San Juan de Letran. Although marginalized within the ranks of the revolution, with the ascendancy of the rival faction, Alvarez continued to support the cause of the revolution. Santiago Alvarez was not an eyewitness of the historic event, although Alvarez was at Cavite at the time. This is his version of the first cry. Sunday, August 23, 1896, at the barn of Kabisang Melchora Aquino, as early as 10 a.m., at a place called Sampalucan, barrio of Bahay Toro, Katipuneros meet together. About 500 of these arrived, ready and eager to join the Supremo, Andres Bonifacio and his men. August 24, 1896, there were about 1,000 Katipuneros. The Supremo decided to hold a meeting inside the barn. Under his leadership, the meeting began at 10 o'clock in the morning. The following matters were approved at the meeting. An uprising to defend the people's freedom was to be started at midnight of Saturday, 29 August 1896. To be on a state of alert so that the Katipunan forces could strike should the situation arise where the enemy was at a disadvantage. Thus, the uprising could be started earlier than the agreed time of midnight of 29 August 1896 should a favorable opportunity arise at that date. Everyone should steel himself and be resolute in the struggle that was imminent, and his immediate objective was the capture of Manila. It was 12 o'clock noon when the meeting adjourned amidst loud cries of "Long live the sons of the country! Mabuhay ang anak ng bayan!"
Guillermo Masangkay was a friend of Andres Bonifacio, the founder of the Katipunan, and Guillermo Masangkay joined that underground society when he was 17 years old. He was born in Mesic Tondo, Manila, and his parents were Domingo Masangkay of Batangas and Victoria Rafael Lufthansa, and he was the youngest of 4 children, and he had no formal education, but despite of that, he had a strong intellectual drive. Thus, although he was only a banquero or a boatman, but he became fluent in Spanish and deeply aware of the political and social conditions of his time. So Guillermo, plying his trade, when he heard about a prominent young man in his neighborhood, that he became friends with Bonifacio. So in April 1896, he was with Bonifacio at the Bernardo Carpio Cave on Mount Tapusi, San Mateo, Rizal. It was the site originally chosen for the start of the uprising, not Balintawak. And when Bonifacio founded the Katipunan on July 7, 1892, together with Ladislao Diwa and Teodoro Plata, he became one of its first member along with Restito Javier, Vicente Molina, Valentin Diaz, Brescio Pantas, Roman Basa, and etc. And Masangkay, also known as Guillermo, was born on June 25, 1867, and he was native on Mesic Tondo, Manila, and he died on May 30, 1963. The account. In late August 1896, members of the Katipunan, led by Andres Bonifacio, revolted somewhere around Caloocan and Quezon City. So the term cry originally referred to the first clash between the Katipuneros and the civil guards. And the cry could also refer to the tearing up of community tax certificate or cedulas personales. And the cry of Balintawak occurred on August 26, 1896, and the cry defined as that turning point when the Filipinos finally refused Spanish colonial dominion over the Philippine Islands. And because of these events, the exact date and place of the event is unknown, from 1908 until 1963. They thought that the event was occurred on August 26 in Balintawak, but in 1963, the Philippine government declared that August 23 to be the date of the event in Quezon City.
Eat in Makala.